Bonjour à toutes et à tous.
Good morning to you all. I'm supposed to make a speech. I'll try to make it as lively as possible and really stick to my timetable. But this topic is of great interest to me. I've been a journalist for 40 years, and I'm always critical. I like to criticize people doing my job. So these media, information and media, the dissemination of ideas for the positive economy. That's the title of this session. The media society, of course, has a lot to do. So what we, since Gutenberg, we've seen that media have adapted quite well. They are quite resilient, but there is a paradox. The fuel of this century, the beginning of the century, is information. All data circulate freely. Everyone can share those data. And with a bit of a practice, journalists and citizens have a huge amount of information available. More knowledge. It is possible to share this knowledge. Social media carry out revolutions. Those social media promote culture, speed up the knowledge we may have about news. So this is the century of media, or it could be the century of media. However, you see the economic crisis, and in fact, information is exported more and more to non-journalists, and that's the problem for the media, for our sector. So how can media, how are they going to go through this positive economics revolution, and how can media help promote this positive economics? It is their responsibility and it is their duty to promote positive economics. Radio France tries to contribute to promote positive economics. We are here, very much engaged here. In this debate and in this forum. So the problem is, how can we convince some billions of individuals, more or less well-informed, more or less aware of the long-term challenges? How can we convince them that there are alternatives to crisis, to social regression, and so on and so forth? To take up this challenge, we need to understand, media need to understand that, and we media need to be involved. Of course, the advocates of positive economics are not all utopians, and so let me summarize. It is necessary to reshape our concepts, to revisit our preconceived ideas, our erroneous knowledge. All this goes through the media sector, but those media do not do that well for the time being. They try to survive, and the media sector sticks to preconceived ideas. I know that I do exaggerate a bit, but not a lot of press managers accept to revisit their business models. There are some of them, of course. They are aware of the problems. They are looking for solutions, but those solutions are very traditional solutions like refinancing, find out new capital, diversifying activities. I'm thinking of free newspapers. But the media people are losing the trust of their readers. Of course, I'm exaggerated, but the newspaper Le Monde, the partner of this forum, seems to have a very clear idea of what should be done to get out of even bankruptcy for some. So let's take the example of a media which is growing, which is very healthy. It's a media, a very successful one, a very old one, because the newspaper I'm going to talk about has existed since 1923. It is called The Budget. I don't know whether you know it, but I discovered it a fortnight ago in Le Courrier International. This is an example not taken at random. The Budget is located in Minnesota, and it is for the community, the Amish. They are not supposed to be very modern, the Amish people, but it shows their business models. And this community is a prosperous one, including from a demographic point of view. And this newspaper has 860 correspondents to cover a very tiny territory. And this newspaper informs the readers, such as the height of corn, the weather forecast, the danger of how to fishing, who got married in the community, how do you get to church, how can we wash 200 kilos of red beetroots in a washing machine. The Amish people circulate in a horse cart. They use the post office to send their editorials to, and the stories published in the newspaper are fascinating. So I checked. A young woman having blocked nostril. She didn't say anything to anybody, but all of a sudden the mother saw something in the nose of her daughter, and she decided to pull something, and they found a corn grain in the nose of her daughter. So the Budget is a very profitable newspaper, and the readership is growing. Let's imagine that I'm saying to my friends from Libération or the Nouvelle Obs that there are other solutions than the one they look for. They will not like it, and they would be right. So the media sector, the media industry is working and likes new ideas. We need the media industry, and they need us. However, information is very important, especially for this forum. So I'm sorry, I'm not very. It's not a very well articulated speech, but let me say some personal words here. I've been a journalist for 45 years, and throughout my career, have not tackled really economic topics, but except for those last few years where I was entrusted with a company with 5,000 people, the function of which is to educate 14 million French people. So I had to be interested, of course, in economics because of that. And then I was lucky enough, or I don't know whether it's luck or not, to chat with Jacques Attali, and he kindly invited me to take part in this preparation of the Positive Economics Forum. I knew that it was not because I had a sound knowledge in economics, but he wanted to have a media partner to export his ideas, but he was very convincing. So all of a sudden, I decided I became the advocate of positive economics in my own environment and in my own company. And it was not that easy. I had to be convincing. And if you want to be convincing, well, you are sure that when I see the programs and the presence of the radios channels of my group here in Le Havre, I'm very satisfied. I know that time is running away, so back to my topic. I'm sorry, it's not really well articulated. The dissemination of ideas in favor of the positive economy. Let's be optimistic, ladies and gentlemen. If you're here, it's because you are optimistic and you are down to earth. I think that we start from scratch, or almost from scratch, i.e., the journalists. Some journalists might be marginal people. The press, whether it's from the right, from the left, or from the center, the press sector finds it difficult to get out of its culture. it's a complex topic, but it's not easy for the press to question the foundation of its analysis, hence its own problem mentioned beforehand. So I cannot prevent a journalist, an economic journalist, from repeating that growth is indispensable in such and such country if you want to come out of the problems. And there are a lot of talents, a lot of expertise, a lot of wisdom among our journalists, economic journalists. And I cannot blame this press to complain about public deficits, to highlight the dangers related to tax evasion, financial deficits, and so on. But why haven't we said that earlier, beforehand? That's a recurring question coming up to my mind. Is it so the media have raised those questions, but is it enough? Can we say that we've done our work correctly? To my knowledge, no. We have just said that in the last few years, but we could have said that maybe much earlier on. We should have a prospective view. And this prospective vision is maturing here at the Forum. The first victim of wars is a truce. Maybe Clemenceau said it, I can't remember. Or Churchill, never mind. Never mind. As far as I'm concerned, I feel that we've been on an economic war for some time, and that truce has been really injured to a large extent. And what is the alternative when you want to hit a wall in using the honking? There is a BBC manager, a BBC leader was confronted to a huge budget cut, and it happens a lot in our audiovisual companies. It's never easy to manage, and he said to the workforce, not to do anything is not an option. And I kept that in my mind, and I think this is applicable to the situation where we are in, and it develops, it leads to, how shall I say, then it triggers new ideas. And I feel that we have reached that stage, and not to do anything will not be an option. And the job of media is to explore all possible ideas, all options, even if they look a bit weird at the beginning, at least. So I have been criticizing the media sector because of their conservatism, because they are conservative. But in the last few months, or maybe in the last 2 years, I can feel here and there new signals, special articles on alternative solutions, and the founder of the magazine Oui Demain is doing an excellent work, but there's still some work to be done in exploring new ideas. We should have a long-term approach, a long-term vision, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is lacking. We lack this long-term approach. Usually, media are short-termist, and this is an effort to be made in the editing rooms. We should stop hurrying up, even if it is necessary for a lot of topics. But we should have a longer term approach. I mentioned Jean-Dominique Sigel because he conveyed new ideas to me. We had a long chat in my office. The topic was the youth, and he made me aware of a number of events. Since I'm a journalist, I've got preconceived ideas, and like a lot of people, I'm rather pessimistic as soon as we talk about the young person, this kind of weird animal without any belief and doomed to live on solidarity funds, and I don't like those parents because his parents. But Jean-Dominique Siegel said I was making a mistake. Of course, those young people are going to find their solutions themselves, and often they will find the solutions themselves with new business models, with new tools, because they live, because they eat, because they feel like having children, they've got friends, they are lively, they do not suffer from sclerosis, and they contemplate the future because they will have to face the future. So we have to inform, imagine, explore, and promote the debate. But to pretend that alternatives are naive, that's not an ambition for journalists. And we already have some concrete implementations. 10 or 20 years ago, topics like microfinance, fair trade, social and united companies sounded very weird, crazy ideas. That was 20 years ago, because they said at that time that companies should also have a social goal. Of course, this is still a minority, and if you look at the ranking of the Ford magazine about millionaires, we see that we still have a lot of work on our plate to change the mindset. But of course, I cannot criticize journalists too much. I am a journalist. But what I really regret is that some editors do not want to contemplate further avenues to explore. In an office of an editor-in-chief, I never saw a board saying it's forbidden to think by yourself. I taught journalism at Sciences Po, and I was sacked because I said to the students, to brilliant students, I said, try to think by yourself. I read Libé, Nouvelle Europe, so try and think by yourself. And the system, the school didn't like that, so I decided to do something else and no longer teach journalism there. So our internet users, our readers have a more precise idea about the world because of the plethora of information, but because also the Western societies have suffered from precariousness, anxiety, the anxiety about the future for us and our children. And those societies do not like to have these lessons, and our citizens understand some financial, industrial, tax mechanisms much better than in the past. They are impacted by the public deficit, the reduction in public expenditure. They know what it means to waste money. They do not want to go backwards. They do not want to give up electricity. They know what recycling means. They know that it works without creating wealth in a new way. It would be the path towards regression. So we can change mindsets, and that's the benefit of crisis. And media love crisis. That's some good news. And media also are subject to the digital revolution. This digital revolution is a word or phrase which is very much used for the time being. But this revolution does exist and has a lot of consequences, and well, apparently time is over, so I'll stop here. But just a final word. We are advocates of this positive economy. And we are blamed because people say to us, you recommend concepts such as altruism, respect, or generosity. But journalism, the dissemination of information only relies upon the meaning of words. It's up to us to give a meaning to words. I do apologize. I was a bit talkative. I was very much interested in the topic. Thank you.